All right, we're in for another live session of Tigers SRD here at, well, we have our own website now, so more on that. I'll put that out there, and it's going to only be a 30-minute, 20-minute thing because we have a guest coming on at 9 o'clock, but I'm not going to say who because I don't want to jinx it because I've learned sometimes with guests, what have you, tend to just things happen. So we're going to have a guest, and you'll know the name, what have you. I'm Rogelio Castillo. Alongside me is Chris Brown, and we're talking the minor league invites. Chris, is that the proper way to say it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way that baseball wanted it to be portrayed. I think what we got today was another example of kind of Major League Baseball not really knowing their ass from the hole in the ground. Like, just reading things wrong and wanting to market. Like, I think they wanted to make this kind of like a big event where everybody's invited. All these teams are invited, but of course everybody focuses on the 43 teams or whatever that no longer have affiliations. Some of them have already kind of joined the Summer Bat League. Yeah, the Norwich Sea Unicorns. Rest in peace to the Tigers. Well, to the entirety of the New York Penn League, but to the Tigers short season affiliate for what, the last 27 years or something like that. I mean, they've moved around. They were in Niagara Falls, then they were in Jamestown, New York, and then Oneonta when I first heard about them. And then they moved to Norwich, and now the people of Norwich are kind of left in the dark. I mean, here's the thing: we knew this was coming,
Right?
But baseball didn't tell anybody. Like, I guess they had to do this so it didn't get out early. But all we saw from the teams today was like, hey, we found out today in a press release. Nobody told us or warned us. Who knows how much of that to believe, or if this is just sour grapes or whatever. But yeah, it just feels like something they did really poorly. But as a whole, I think it's probably good for minor league baseball eventually.
Right.
In terms of, it just makes more sense. If you were to design a minor league system, it would look more like this than it would from the last 50 years or whatever. It sucks for all the teams and all the towns that are losing baseball.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I saw earlier that the Clinton Lumberjacks, which is now the high affiliate, would have been the high affiliate in the Midwest League, they didn't even get a call from the Marlins. They were just like, would have been nice to get a phone call. It was Sarah Sanchez retweeted that. I was just kind of blown away a little bit. But then at the same time, I know there could have been a better way to go on about this too. Staten Island suing the Yankees. The Staten Island Yankees are suing, and then Fresno, who was a AAA affiliate, now goes to, I think, low A for the Rockies. And so, I agree with you. This is long term for minor league baseball better. West Michigan now is a high A affiliate, so we get a higher quality. Lakeland is getting low A and all the rookie ball, and I think the Florida State League is now 10, 11 teams now. They
lost 2 teams, yeah, so that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think for people in our area, it does. We're going to get a slightly higher level of baseball. There's a better chance now that fans in Grand Rapids or, in Michigan are going to go and be able to see Riley Green again and probably Spencer Torkelson for the first month or two of the season out in Grand Rapids. So that's nice for assuming we have any sort of real minor league season. We still don't know anything about that. That's still kind of up in the air. But
right.
But yeah, it's a little more streamlined. Major League Baseball has more control, and they've done some things with some of the teams that got lost. There's the new Major League Draft League, I think they're calling it, which is going to be like a wood bat developmental league. But yeah, it's a sad day for a lot of places. A lot of and a lot of them in the Midwest League, like you mentioned. I think who else? King County lost their team.
King County, yep.
Bowling Green didn't. People thought they were, but I guess the Rays were like, no, we like it there. So teams had the ability apparently to save minor league teams if they wanted to.
But I understand. There's a couple comments about Clinton being kind of like not a really good stadium.
Yeah, and I think Burlington too. There was some of these. They're kind of the places that we see and we saw in the movie Sugar.
That's
basically
right.
these cornfields. But yeah, it's a bummer, but we'll live with it and we'll get used to it soon enough.
Yeah, and I really feel bad for these teams and these families too. This is tradition for some of these people, and the one positive about this too is that the Seawolves are are still among us. So all the stadium, all that stuff was going for the right thing. So coming up tonight too, we're going to talk this hashtag that's been trending today, David Dahl to Detroit. And I know that there's a certain type, it was actually, I got to give credit to Scott Bentley, who got this trending on, I guess, trending across the United States and in the area. So he was trying to get people and
across the United States, for real.
Yeah, is it trending United States? He showed a screenshot of it earlier, and he got it to going. So I got to give him credit for that. And yeah, see, there they come. There they come. Scott Motor City. Yeah, there we go. Dial to Detroit. So Scott's been doing videos every day, and I got to respect the fact that he's doing it. And see, every Scott Burner Tigers. So everybody was pretty pumped about that. And, credit to him. He's doing video every day until he comes here. But we'll talk about that for a little bit, and then we'll get into the Rule 5 stuff before our guest coming at 9:00, which we won't be live for. They'll be off the recording. Well, that. So more. Yeah, this is the last time Scott doing this. More to come. Yep. So more to come. Dial to Detroit. Okay, so let's talk about David Dahl, Chris, shall we?
No, absolutely. When we first heard that he was being released by the Rockies, it was kind of a shock. He's a former top prospect. He was like a top 50 prospect for multiple years. And yeah, he's one of the biggest names who was, designated along with Schwarber and Eddie Rosario, I think you mentioned. But the more you look into it, the more it makes sense. You understand why they did it. Doesn't mean that Dahl isn't super, naturally talented. But for people who don't know, he was a first-round pick back in 2012, 10th overall. Apparently, he actually had a deal with the Pirates that year, but then the Pirates changed their mind and went after Mark Appel, and then they couldn't sign him, so they lost out. But so he signs with the Rockies, and he just goes bonkers in his first year. Goes to Pioneer League, which is always a big hitter-friendly league anyway.
Right.
And he hit like 380 with 12 home runs and 20 steals or something, won the MVP. And then things just got weird. So the next year, the Rockies punished him because he booked his own flight from spring training back to the stadium or something like that. Instead of taking a team flight or do something like that. So they punished him, sent him back down to the instructional league for a week or so. Then he came back and tore his hamstring the second week of the season. We only played 10 games in 2013. And then he came back for instructs, but then he went down with back soreness. And that becomes kind of a theme. And he was good in 2014 again. He went back to low A and played really well, hit about 300. And at the end of the year, they sent him up to high A. And then they dropped him back down to low A at the end of the season because Asheville was in the playoffs and they wanted him to get some experience. And they won the title that year, so that was probably fun. And then 2015, he's in high A and gets in a horrible outfield collision that cost him his spleen. And so he missed like half the season. And then when he was on the way back, he had knee tendonitis. So he ended up not coming back that year. So back healthy and productive in 2016. Every time he's healthy, he's productive. He hit 314 with 18 homers and 17 steals in high A. I'm sorry, between double A and triple A in like 97 games. So he actually got called up to the Rockies that year, and he played well for the Rockies. He hit 315 with 7 homers, and that was worth about like 1.2 or 1.0 WAR, depending on what you look at, in only 60 games. So it looked like, all right, this guy's legit. He's going to be our center fielder. That's 2016, but guess what happens in 2017? Stress fracture in spring training, then back spasms when he was rehabbing. So he only played 19 games in 2017. 2018, one trip to the injured list in the minors, and then a foot fracture in the big leagues. He did play 77 games in the bigs and hit 273 with 16 homers, though. So again, it's like whenever he plays, he's productive. But we're up to 2019 now. He spent a quick week on the injured list at the beginning of the year, and then he had a really strong first half. He hit 308 with 12 homers and a couple steals in 80 games, made the All-Star team. Looked like it was really happening for him.
He hurt his spleen, by the way. Just as telling the listener that he hurt his spleen, but continue.
Spleen.
Yes.
So 2019 All-Star game, then like 2 days into August, guess what happens? High ankle sprain, done for the year. And finally this year, He hit 183 with no power through 24 games. Hit the injured list again with back soreness, and then they put him on the 60-day injured list with a sore shoulder, a shoulder strain. So you're keeping track. That's 7 out of 8 full seasons that he's been missed most of the games, not most of, but a significant portion of season with injuries, in multiple injuries. And you could kind of understand why they got rid of him. If you've been dealing with that for 8 years, they probably don't think he's ever going to be healthy and productive. So basically, like I said, the tools are still there. He's got power, he's got speed, he's got an arm, he can play center field. But at best, you've got an extremely injury-prone player, and at worst, you might have a bit of a malingerer. Because that's one thing I didn't mention in the Baseball America draft profile. Scouts had concerns about his demeanor on the field, that he seemed to not be very interested, or maybe he doesn't love baseball that much. And when you start thinking about the number of times, there's like at least 3 times where he was injured, and then during the rehab process, he got re-injured and didn't come back. So you understand why the Rockies got rid of him. I also understand why fans are interested in him and would like to see him. I think it would be great. I'd love to see him in Detroit. I said before, I think a healthy David Dahl is basically a left-handed Jacoby Jones, if you will. And we've seen Jacoby Jones really good and really bad, and injured a lot too. So he's young. Like I said, if they got him now, they theoretically have him for the next 3 years. And if he's healthy, he could be a building block. But it's not. There's a reason the Rockies let him go. Basically, this wasn't 100% cost cutting. He was only going to be like $3 million. So that's my take on David Dahl.
Yeah, I mean, some of his numbers, if you look at some of his StatCast numbers, and that's where he had a drop in exit velocity. And probably because of injuries. It was down from, usually it's around, on average, was 88. It was 85 this year. He only barreled it up twice, and his barrel percentage dropped again. It's all sample size because of short season.
And he had back soreness and a shoulder strain, but it's like just about every part of his body. Like we said, his spleen is gone. He's hurt his ankle. He's hurt his back. He's hurt his ribs. He tore his hamstring. It could be extremely bad luck. But as we say before, the number one indicator that you're going to get injured in the future is previous injuries, and he's had a boatload. Yeah,
and not to mention when you and I talked about this ad nauseum about back. When you injure your back, you're never the same person because you use your back and everything. You use your back in your swing, you're running, everything. So if you've got an injured back, that's where the issue could come in. So it to me,
doctor said he needed a backiotomy.
Yeah, backiotomy.
I said I need a backiotomy.
If you want to take a flyer on him, great. And I do we start?
Listen,
go ahead.
The Tigers are in no position to turn away anybody with major league talent, and he's got tools for days. Like I said, if they can sign him and bring him to Detroit, I'd be happy. I think expecting him to come to Detroit and then be an all-star instantly is probably a recipe for disappointment.
There's one thing I want to address real quick about the free agency and all that, because something that I saw Cody Saberhagen of The Athletic wrote a really good article, and you've written about this too, and Brandon Dave from Bless You Boys has written about this as well, and that's patience. And I know that, I will say that, I know we had a Mike who wrote a piece about the non-tender day, and let's just say there's certain people, not going to say who, we're not happy about that piece, and they kind of let it be known in some way, shape, or form. Be that as it may, I understand the anger and frustration. How I feel about it, the Tigers, if you read the tea leaves, even to the point where Chris Mikowski, Detroit News, popped off about making some weird boutique statement, then he deleted it and what have you, all that aside, Tigers do need to spend. How they spend, we don't know. And I just, in terms of even making a trade to be creative, that's where I struggle with, because today I did a piece on Dave Dombrowski taking prospects, 35 future value, 40 future value, and turning them into impactful players. And to me, if you have these prospects and you not use them for players that are proven, if they can help you out and they're under control for a couple of years, do it. If another team likes your prospects, hey, take them. If there's something like, I'm not saying like Special Torkelson or Riley Green or anything like that, but if they like something in your system, take advantage of it. And I practice patience, and I know sometimes I get a little impatient, but we've seen this before. If they're going to do everything, they either do it all at once or they wait till January. territory. There's no
Yeah.
no rhyme or reason behind it, and so I understand why fans are frustrated.
Yeah, I do too, because they just want to see some sign that the team cares, that the team is interested in trying to make themselves better. I think, like you said, but you don't get extra wins for being first to sign a bunch of free agents, And if the Tigers, we assume they have some sort of plan for the offseason. They're not just going, hey, let's see what's available. So whatever is happening right now is they're waiting for what they want, or they are offering some players, and the players themselves are kind of feeling it out. I think, what we saw last year, I think fans were generally pretty happy with the moves they made and the results. Basically, I think people really enjoyed Jonathan Scope and CJ Cron before he got hurt. Von Nova didn't work out, and Romine was solid early and then kind of tapered off. He's a career backup, and that's what he played like. But those were solid moves that actually had, when they were healthy and competing, the Tigers were 500 or whatever heading into the final month of the season, I think, or they were 18-18 or something like that.
Right.
And everybody got hurt, and they fell off a cliff again, and they brought up the young guys, and so I think it's likely the Tigers will make some moves that will be okay. The Tiger fans will be like, all right, we can root for this guy. He's a major leaguer. That's what we wanted last year, and that's what they got. But fans naturally want to see the Tigers like in on George Springer and JT Realmuto and stuff like that. And we write about it because it's fun to think about, but it's just, they've shown us that's not what they're going to do. They're not interested in spending a whole lot of money. They probably don't feel like they're going to compete or get close to competing next year. And this is the way they're going. You contrast it with what we've seen from the Royals, who aren't that much better than the Tigers from a talent perspective, and they're kind of in the same boat. They've got a lot of young pitching coming up, but the Royals are going out and trying to make their team better through, some might question the wisdom of signing Carlos Santana or Mike Minor or who else they traded for Michael A. Taylor or signed him. At least doing stuff, and I think Tigers fans would be happy about that. And honestly, we probably would too at Motor City Bengals, because it give us something concrete to write about.
Yeah, instead of people giving us crap about, oh, you guys are writing too much theoretical. What do you want us to do? You want to just sit there and we don't have, we can only do so much, and we don't have the.
We can do an alternate universe Tigers team.
Yeah, we can do an alternate universe thing. We don't have access to the clubhouse. We don't have access to press conferences as much as we'd like to and be taken seriously, because I think we should be. But looking at you guys, to me, it's one of those things where I personally think that it's going to happen. It's going to be, if you look at how Chris Mikowski wrote that piece, some of those names in there, if you read the tea leaves, and tomorrow, we got the Rule 5 draft, and that's something like, it's becoming like the Lions, like Rule 5 day. And I was talking to Ralph from Prospects Live about it, and he was like, why the hell do you guys, people love the Rule 5 stuff. And just judging by the clicks in the articles, Chris, people want to know who the Tigers are going to pick in the Rule 5 draft. I personally think they're going to go with a pitcher, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I pitcher is the most commonly selected position by far, followed by kind of middle infielders, shortstop, second baseman, then outfielders, then your corner outfielders, then last catcher. But I don't know what it is about. I think people just love the idea of a bargain, or people love drafts. People love mock drafts. People love all that stuff. So something like this, where you're just taking the players from another team, seems fun to people. But yeah, history shows us that the vast majority of players taken get returned. They don't even offer anything teams, and the players who usually aren't very good. Victor Reyes is kind of a success story, and he's like less than 2 career WAR. Every now and then you see a Dan Ugla, or a Josh Hamilton was a Rule 5 pick. Johan Santana is the one people point to a lot, but that was before they changed the rules. In recent years, you're looking at like Brad Keller, a number 4 starter, which would be great to land in the Rule 5, but it's just really uncommon.
Yeah, we'll look at some of the pitchers. We'll start with pitchers here, and some of the suggestions, and one of them from Ralph from Prospects Live, and I know this is a big fan of Dan Heath. He's a fan of this guy who's Brett DeGoss from the Dodgers system. I put in Dave Parkinson because they always choose lefties. They always seem to do that for whatever reason. Riley Pint because, well, I mean, he grew.
He's a name.
He's a name. He was from Overland Park, which is 2 hours away from Wichita State, where one David Chad, the vice president and assistant GM, that's the stomping grounds. And so you can put it together. Maybe you could put not. I don't know. I mean, but then Pint hasn't pitched above low A, and he's wild all over the place. A guy I like too, and until Ralph showed me was Cade McClure from the White Sox, and he had a really good spring training. His mile per hours went up there. I guess from conditioning and then just some of the analytics that the White Sox are using. But in the outfield, Chris, there's a couple guys that I wanted you to talk about real quick before we roll on out of here. TJ Freddy, am I saying that right?
Friedel. Or Friedel. One of those two. Yeah, I mean, he gets mentioned a lot, and he was a guy who he was available last year and nobody took him. And it was kind of surprised he was available last year, and he's available again this year. So in that, what do we always say? The teams tell you what they think of players. That kind of tells you that the Reds don't necessarily think he's a super valuable player. But he's a guy he's just an interesting story. He was a walk-on at Nevada, and he sucked as a freshman, redshirted as a sophomore, and then hit close to 400 or over 400 as a junior. But he thought that you had to play 3 years of baseball to get drafted, not that you just had to be in there for 3 years. So he didn't do anything you have to do to get drafted, and teams didn't pay attention to him. And then he went, I think he went to the Northwoods League and played really well. And then he went up on Team USA and started raking. And then teams realized, like, oh crap, this guy's available. So the Reds gave him $730,000, which is the highest ever for an undrafted free agent. And he's been fine in pro ball, but he's just kind of, I don't want to say like a Jake Robson, but sort of like that, like an outfielder. He's got some speed and he's got contact skills, and he doesn't strike out a ton. He doesn't have much power overall, and he might be limited to left field. Probably could handle center field. So it's more of a fourth outfield profile at the most. But Tigers could kind of use outfield help in any way they can get it now. So
yeah, they definitely do. I mean, they right now, as it stands, you're not sure what's going to happen with Christian Stewart, whether he's going to be back or not, or in the fold. Travis Demeritte kind of fell back a little bit last year. I mean, he's never really been in the mix anyways, as we're being honest about it. So right now, the outfield situation, I mean, Bonifacio did not accept his assignment, so he's a minor league free agent. Robson, speaking of Robson, by the way, the Australian baseball starts on 16th, so he's playing for the Blue Sox, same thing with Cam Gibson. So you have a situation too, and you still have Troy Stokes Jr. on the 40-man roster, which could change. We don't know.
Yeah, the rest of the 40-man options, you mentioned Kristen Stewart. The other outfielders they have are Derek Hill, Daz Cameron, Troy Stokes Jr., and possibly Harold Castro, basically. But yeah, I mean, there's very little, and you're basically going in with Victor Reyes and Jacoby Jones as your starters. Those guys are probably fourth outfielders, ideally. So there's not a whole lot of talent out there. They could give Daz the starting job. Maybe he'll win it in spring training. But yeah, they could use some help out there. And ideally, it would be the form of a good veteran. But maybe they go cheap again and try their luck in the outfield.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how they want to go about it too. I mean, Jock Peterson. A lot of Tiger fans want Jock Peterson, and again, that's kind of like, to me, that's a platoon. I like to, like I mentioned earlier, Eddie Rosario. And then I'm trying to blank on who's out there in terms of outfielders.
Well, Schwarber, technically.
Oh yeah, Schwarber. Yeah, but
if you want him to play outfield, you probably want him to play first base or DH. But
yeah, I mean, if he wants to play first base, by all means. So it really depends on what you
Brian Goodwin.
Out there. Michael Brantley's talked about, but again, he was rumored with the Yankees. Michael Brantley would be an ideal choice, but I don't know what they're gonna spend or how much they're gonna spend on. Considering too that, like, you might see Riley Green. There was a question about Spencer Torkelson if he would be making the ball club next year, but it depends on how he does in double. I think where he starts off at. But
yeah, you know what? Who has that? That was Joe. What's his name?
Joe. I think it was Joe.
Joe Dexter. Yeah. So with about Torkelson, if it's realistic for him to start, from a talent perspective, not start, but reach the majors next year. From a talent perspective, it's probably somewhat realistic. I don't expect it to happen. It's just given the way the Tigers have been handling prospects recently, the last few years, and we've joked before about them bringing up Bork and Green on the same day, like they did this year with Mize and Skubal and Paredes, just kind of a prospect holiday. But yeah, I don't see it. And one of the things we can do, we can kind of look to the history of similar players. Torkelson, high draft picks, highly thought of college hitters, and see what happened with them. So we've heard him compared to Mark Teixeira a couple times. I think they said, best college hitter since Mark Teixeira. And Teixeira was drafted 5th overall in 2001. Back then, guys didn't sign until super late, so he didn't play at all in 2001. He spent all of 2002 in the minors, the whole season, splitting time between high A and double A, and then he went right to the majors the next year. The full season in minor league ball. We've also heard Torque compared to Chris Bryant. If maybe he's the best hitter since Chris Bryant. Bryant was 2nd overall in 2013. He spent a few weeks in high A that draft year and tore it up, and then spent all of the next year, 2014, in double A and triple A, and minor league player of the year, stuff like that. Just monster numbers. And then remember the Cubs even sent him back to the minors for 10 games
for service.
Yeah, just manipulated service time, which it cost him a year free agency, and who knows how much money. So then and just 2 years ago, go to the top of the draft, the players taken after Casey Mize. So Alec Boehm, the catcher of the Giants, Joey Bart, the catcher of the Giants, Alec Boehm, the third baseman for the Phillies, and Nick Madrigal, the second baseman from the White Sox. All three of them spent the entirety of their first full season in the minor leagues before coming up the year after, this year. And so I expect that's what we'll see from Torkelson. Probably spend all next year. Like we said earlier, it wouldn't shock me if he starts in high A, which is West Michigan now, and then quickly moves to double A, at least by June, and then might even get up to triple A. And then it's possible the Tigers bring him up in late September just for fun, but it seems unlikely. I say, we didn't hear a ton about what was going on in the summer camp this year, but we did hear that Torkelson was kind of just okay. Like, I don't want to say that he was bad or anything like that, but he wasn't like this otherworldly Godzilla of a human hitter. It's going to take him some time. He's still a minor leaguer, still a prospect. He's not going to come out and be Babe Ruth right away. And so if I were to bet when he comes up, I'd put my money probably in May or June of 2022. That way the Tigers can manipulate his service time a little bit too and give him the requisite. And with him, they'll have the built-in excuse that he needs more defensive reps at third base. So,
yeah, at that point, either if Brian Packer continues his trend, which we'll see him in West Michigan this year again, or he might start the season in Erie. I'm not sure what's going on there, but he wasn't.
Yeah, it all depends on how the positions work out. I mean, Packard, they moved him to first base, right? So I think that he will. It's going to be between Packard and Ray Rivera, right?
Yeah.
So, or I guess they would Nick Ames and a couple other guys, but
Nick. Yeah, there's who was the guy that was in camp that was playing all the positions? The
Brady Policelli.
Yeah, Brady Policelli.
I mean, it's possible they have any there anyway. Hey, Mike. That's Mike, right?
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, Mike Papchak.
Bring it back, Mike. Whoa. Sorry, that's a random Jerky Boys reference that probably nobody got. I think it's likely that Torkelson will get moved back to first base eventually, but I don't think they will do it because to hurry him to the big leagues or to make fans happy. I think they'll do it because they kind of have to, and they're like everything that they've done. They're doing it on their own timeline. We saw they brought up the three guys I mentioned to avoid the Super 2 and also to give all three of those guys a chance to still be rookies next year. So they have a chance to, Mize and Skubal and Paredes will have a chance to go for the Rookie of the Year if they want. It's possible that Torque is just such a monster that they bring him up early in 2022 or late in 2021, but I just don't see it lining up with what they've been doing lately.
Yeah, I mean, Candelario he's playing in the Dominican Winter League for the Los Toros again, and he was like, wherever the Tigers want me, third, first base doesn't matter. And so there is some corner. You saw Markel Franco was another name that was mentioned in Mikowski's article, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I think tomorrow the Rule 5, but I just think I think maybe we won't. My prediction is that we don't say anything until the beginning of the year. Honestly, I would love for something to come in December. But usually there's some rumor, there's something, and outside of the Walker or Tejan Walker rumor a couple weeks ago, the Tigers were interested. It's been nothing.
Yeah,
John Morosi hasn't said anything. Usually John Morosi will give some sort of hint or indication.
He said something about Kurt Casale being an interesting option for Detroit, but he didn't say the teams were talking to him or Casale was interested, anything like that. So, yeah, I agree with you. I doubt we hear any real moves until February. And I do think they'll take a pitcher tomorrow. I mentioned it before. I like Zach Pop of the Orioles, but I haven't seen him mentioned on any of the national Rule 5 preview lists. So I don't know. Who knows? But I mean, he had Tommy John surgery in 2018, or 2019. So people are probably worried about that. But to me, that is almost a bonus for the Rule 5, because you only have to have the guy on the roster for 90 days to keep him. And so you can continue having him rehab his injury. And when he was healthy, he was 94 to 98, like a side armor almost, 94 to 98 with a slider that was above average at times. I think that could work in the bullpen. But like I said, I haven't seen anybody else mention him, so maybe I'm just way out of my league here.
Well, the Tigers tend to – I think whoever they pick tomorrow might not be a popular – perhaps not like a popular choice. We'll see. I mean, maybe it's a name they've already seen. They were last year, because they had the first pick, we found out pretty early they were going to pick Garcia.
Yeah.
In this case, there's been, again, it's been really weird. Usually there's some sort of rumbling and what have you. There's been nothing. So
we'll start JJ Cooper as the master of all things Rule 5 from Baseball America.
Yeah.
And so, he was obviously quite busy today with all that. He's also been covering all the minor league stuff.
The guy's earned his money today for sure.
Yeah, he deserves it. He deserves to get an award this year, one of those, sports writer awards.
He's such a good writer.
Yeah, and he loves planes and stuff too, which whatever. But we'll start to hear rumors from him probably around 11 tomorrow, 11:30.
Yeah,
he works the rooms. Although who knows, with it being all digital this year, maybe not. Maybe he can't work the room so well.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is picking first and followed by, I think,
Texas.
Texas, yeah. So Pittsburgh and Texas, and then Detroit at number 3. So, all right. So it looks like we're out of time for now. So there will be a second half of the show with our guest who works for a newspaper. That's all I'm going to say. Like I said, we're going to make sure.
John Lennon.
But we look forward to talking to you again next week. We'll be doing this on a weekly basis till the end of the year. And one thing, hold on.
One time. Oh.
So I got Chris. So Chris is going to get we're going to upgrade the mic situation. So this is his Christmas gift right there.
All I need is one mic.
I think Harris one.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Roger.
It's no problem at all. So we'll be talking again next week. We'll be doing kind of a live chat going forward. This was kind of like an impromptu thing, and we'll continue to do these. These are fun. And yeah, so thank you for listening, and look forward to talking again next week. Just said that's redundant, and hope you like our guest. We'll see you soon.